Hello, participants. So that's the video as an introduction to digitalization and digital communication. So I would like to present the main points and the basics of how globalization actually brought and increased the level of digitalization, how the artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things have emerged in the world, and how digital communication also has developed. So let me share now the presentation for you. Starting from the very beginning, I just need to pinpoint the speed of the technological advancement, which actually is described by the model of Adler and Kapper from 2016, who are claiming that we have four quadrants, and each of the quadrants is describing the relationship between the so-called ecosystem emergence challenges for the new technologies, and on the other side, the so-called ecosystem extension for the opportunities for the old technology. So if we're looking at in each of the quadrants, starting with the creative destruction, going through the robust coexistence, then the illusion of resilience, and then robust resilience, we will see that actually there are a lot of different scenarios where we have this level of new and old technologies as a comparison. So in the first quadrant, starting with the creative destruction, we have basically the fast substitution of the technologies. We remember back in the time, the USB, the flash drives, how they emerged, and the change from 8 to 16 gigabytes, or the printers having ink jet versus the printers which are the dot matrix printers. Similarly here, where we have also substitution of technologies, but in this case it's called gradual. So we have the solid state versus the magnetic storage in terms of the hard drive in the computers, the hybrid engines versus the internal combustion engines for the vehicles, and last but not least, the cloud computing versus the desktop computing. So we can call those changes gradual substitution, which means that two different level of technologies, they coexisted parallelly. The quadrant 3 is the illusion of resilience, where we have so-called status followed by the rapid substitution, or I would say radical substitution, when the GPS navigators took over the paper maps. That's indeed I would say radical change. Or the high definition TV, they substituted the standard definition TV, so it's a big change, as well as the music format of MP3 files. They substituted the classical CDs. Then in the quadrant 4, the robust resilience, this is the substitution took significant period of time or longer time for resilience in terms of change of the technology. So if we compare the gasoline fuel cars for being for so long on the markets versus fully electric cars, then we can say that this substitution has been gradual and extremely slow. Then also we can speak about the DNA memory or the semiconductor memory, and last but not least, we can speak about the cloud computing versus the desktop computing in the 90s. Moving further, we have to pinpoint the so-called theory of communications because they are basics for the digital communication, and they create a so-called diffusion of innovation model, starting with the innovators, then the early adopters, the early majority, late majority, and then the laggards. So it means that each of those groups of customer segments, they have a different level of adaptation and implementation of the latest technologies. And it goes always like that, those who are innovators, those are, I would call, the hungriest one for the latest technologies. Then we have the early adopters, and then early majority, late majority, and last but not least, the laggards, those who are extremely conservative, and they do not belong into any new technology. For the digital communication, it's important to pinpoint that different late definitions define these digital communication. First is a process of connecting the people across different so-called online channels. Another definition is stating that the technology ultimately or finally first time in the human history enables or allows people to really maintain rich communication or connection, with a much larger number of people. So it means the massiveness, the range of the communication that we can reach many people online. Also, Caper defines the so-called 5 characteristics which are comprising of the digital communication, and is different from the traditional one. So according to his studies, we say that digital communication is firstly more interactive, more participatory, more egalitarian, more decentralized, and less hierarchical. Those are arguments, first of all, due to the digital and technological advancement, which allows basically to get connected anytime from anywhere of the world, and we can reach really remote people. The reasons for the digital communications also vary, because digital communication, of course, especially in pandemic period, has boosted. So first, the companies, organizations, they would like to build a brand, so they can convert their brand image for kind of a legacy organization, which is basically driving new direction of the business. Building awareness, because the companies, they want to have or cast very wide net to the different potential customers across the world. You can think of Alibaba or eBay, or you can think of any other global retailer, e-commerce, which drives quite a lot of connectivity. Then liaison conversation, so maintaining customer relationship, because basically the different campaigns, they can reach through the different channels, especially the online, wider audience. The educating consumers, so the companies, they address basically the issues of the customers, and they help them to go through the so-called informative digital content. Then also creating employees and customers experience. So the online digital content creates customer experience, because the customers are expecting personalization, customization, and unique approach to them for when they subscribe for different services and also buying products online. Managing risk is because actually the companies, they can conduct this kind of damage of control by designing the brand and improving brand reputation after different mishap. For example, if companies are trying to make up some scandal, so they can online disseminate information to their customers, to their stakeholders, and to try to justify that. Providing entertainment, because in the online, indeed, there are many different types of advertisements, so the marketers can give really the audience different content which they enjoy, such as, for example, engaging, video, making funny articles, and so on. From perspective of digitalization and level of technological advancement, we have two subgroups of people. On one side, we have the digital immigrants, those who are adopters of the so-called web technologies, or they prefer to talk face to face. They learn in a logical way, they focus on one task at a time, which means that the multitasking for them is not very optimal. They prefer to have interaction with one or a few people rather than many, get information from the traditional news sites and so on. The digital natives they were born or after the digital age, so it means that we can speak here about different generations, Generation Z, Generation Y, millennials, post-millennials, and so on. So they were born in that digital era. They always are connected, attached to the phone or other gadget, intuitive learners. So they learn as it comes with the digital content. Extremely social from perspective of usage of social media, multimedia oriented, so using different platforms, digital platforms. The digital disruption, which, as I said, boosted over pandemic period. First of all, this digital disruption or radical change has brought a lot of issues and also a lot of opportunities for organizations, for individuals. So the pillars of the digital disruptions, first of all, we have unprecedented transparency because that's a global problem. Intelligent systems which are related to the big data, data analytics, artificial intelligence, mass collaboration, so it means the connectivity, that the world is really connected. Mixed reality, the virtual reality, augmented reality, and so on. So in all these digital disruptors, when they mix up, we have to say that all of them are platforms and all of them are connectors through which we are working and collaborating. And of course, we are trying to create more sustainable planet. Then the advantages of the digital communication, of course, that digital communication is much faster than the traditional one, is efficient and also very convenient because we can do it simply anywhere from any time, as long as we have internet. The employees can have a conversation in the real time with the colleagues or the customers from the opposite side of the world, so from on a big distance, and they even don't have to travel to their office. The organizational leaders or the top managers, they can use really the different digital channels to communicate with the all of their employees, business partners, suppliers, and so on. So it really allows very wide feedback. Of course, there are also disadvantages of the digital communication because having constant access to these communication tools creates, a lot of hurdles for the employees, and it disconnects at the end of the working day. So it means that the work-life balance is a challenge, the mental health, psychological problems, but also burnout. Email notifications and sounds from different work apps, they follow all the time wherever we are, as long as we have the smart devices, the gadgets, which means that it can hurdle also the balance, the work-life balance. Without, of course, having a chance to unplug, being online, people are, of course, very likely to have experience of burnout, which I mentioned, and also to be overworked. In terms of phenomena on digitalization, in the digital era, all these virtual chats, video conferencing, project collaboration tools are really great example of asset and added value for the people. However, overuse of it and spending extremely lots of time on that and working can lead, as I mentioned earlier, to burnouts and some psychological and physical problems. Each channel, digital channel, needs to have the unique goal and purpose, because when we create digital content, we need to know very well our target group and our objectives. Otherwise, we should not add digital communication tool simply for just having that. And if you remember when I was explaining about the assignment using of digital platforms, you should not exceed usage of many, but you have to take a couple of them and you can learn and you can master them. Also, the employees and the people, we have to stay in the control of how we receive and how we manage the communications, the online communications. So we need to prioritize, because in this massive way of receiving emails, for example, virtual calls and so on, we need to sustain and to go through. Also, the digital communication tools, they are not always as easy as we think. So it takes time as well, sometimes, because as long as we need to adapt and to absorb this information and to convert it into our working context, it will take longer time. Then the different tools, which are digital communication tools, we have really lots of them for email client or colleague, for online chats and instant messaging, project-based work or collaboration, video conferencing, we know very well, internal blogs and chats, especially from our rectors, from our top management, also the companies and the organizational news channel, newsletters, discussion forums online, and many others. So on the right side, you can see some of the most popular worldwide. For example, from Google Suite, the Slack chat, we can say also you have Zapier, Mixpanel, Google Analytics, Google AdWords, Breezy, and many others. Also, we can, at the end, I just want to conclude here that those statements is that, first of all, being all the time online creates as well its own disadvantages. However, being connected all the time from the other side give us the possibility to react, or if there is something very urgent that we can at least take a step, or we're given the possibility. Also, we have to state that these digital communication tools, of course, being adapted in many industries, in many sectors, still it's challenge for lots of geographical locations across the world, because simply the people out there are not get used to it, or simply they just start using it, or simply they just were trained on that. However, the self preparation and self-sacrificing of time for enhancing and learning all these advantages and disadvantages of the digital tools only can strengthen our understanding and can keep us basically in this digital loop, if I can say. And it can help also to be more competitive, but at the same time to stay more connected. So many thanks for your attention. And that was our official introduction, because here the part I had to consolidate and to present the framework and the concept of this training on this digitalization. Many thanks.